Welcome, everybody, to the Tea with Ms McGill Show, fueled by our friends over at Blue Line Brews. The coffee is out, and we are here. I'm going the wrong way. Look at that, baby. Dark Roast Detective Special. Find it on shelves near you, or, of course, BlueLineBrews.com. Right there. Yeah, BlueLineBrews.com. We'll have the link down in the show notes. We are in our new Blue Line Brews studio, of course. Find us on social media. If you're finding us on YouTube, it's Goat Sports Media LLC. If you're looking for us on Facebook, it's Goat Sports Media LLC. If you're looking for us on podcast, Tea with Ms McGill Show, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, all those great places that you catch your favorite podcasts. White Visor is Puka. Great ODR Black Hat is the star of the show, Reed Larson. What's shaking, buddy? Is your vocal cord sore from all that talking last night?
Well, I don't know. I mean, a couple of comments from some listeners last night. They'll say, I can't believe how much you can talk. Well, believe it, because I can keep rolling. A lot of exercise with these old vocal cords. And yeah, no, it was fun. I got to coach a hockey game last night, and I got to call a hockey game last night. So I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that as we go on.
Yeah. Well, let's start there. You guys, Grand Rapids Thunderhawks making a trip down to the Heritage, I believe it was that, right? From the Clips, I saw.
Yep, Heritage Center in the Sill Arena there on the main side. And second game of the season for the Thunderhawks and the third for the Greyhounds of Duluth East. And they were 0-2 coming into the game. A couple of higher level competition teams earlier on the week before. Lost both games. Grand Rapids had only played one game before, which, we talked about there with the 11-0 W for the Thunderhawks over the Hibbing Chisholm Blue Jackets. But a little bit more like it as far as what Section 7 AA looks like. Up, down, high, low. Doesn't matter what these two teams are. If they're supposed to be good this year, if they're not supposed to be good this year, it doesn't matter. It's a battle between these two teams every time, and you better play an entire 3-period game of hockey if you expect to win. And you saw it last night. There was a couple of opportunities during that game where I think we get into third period, and Bob Cohn and I said, you know what, Grand Rapids right now, they're up 4-1. But the next goal is huge. If Rapids scores a fifth goal and goes up 5-1, the wheels are going to fall off. If Duluth East scores and it's 4-2, watch out, because that's a team with some pride. I don't care who's coaching it. It's a program it's a staple in the Northland there, and they're going to fight and battle. And it's a battle between, the red and the black and the orange and the white all the time. And that's exactly what happened. It happened just a couple of minutes or just a minute into the period. Rapids gives up a goal. They're in the penalty box, and now it's 4-2, and the game got interesting as it went on and on. Close to the end, then East pulls their goalie. Rapids takes another penalty, and the penalties were a little last night. Maybe some penalties Rapids shouldn't have taken. Maybe not. You could be the judge of that when you watch these games. I don't claim to be a referee, so I'm not going to criticize. At any rate, Rapids was in the penalty box, but Duluth East was grinding it out on the power play. So now not only are you worried about they've got a power play, but they can pull their goalie. So now it was a 6-on-4, and they come off a face-off, and bang, now it's 4-3. So like we said early in that talk, is like it's going to get interesting if he scores the next goal, and sure enough, it did.
I as we'll get to, I was in Greenway at the Rockridge Greenway game, but at one time I had heard 3-1 Rapids or something like that. So I just thought they were I jump in the car, turn on the radio, and catch that last 2 minutes or so, right about when you got someone got who got the penalty at the end? Was it?
I couldn't remember exactly who it was. Nelson, I know Caden Nelson had one.
I think that was the penalty. That was the penalty when I kind of tuned in.
But I'm sure you got a really candid version of it if you pulled on KOZY and you got Grant Clafton and they're doing the color. You're going to get a really candid version. And I've listened to the games that Grant Clafton does on color and Sheldon Willis is doing on the radio, and those guys are good. They're good.
I sent him a text. I said, Grant, I had no idea you did this. Great job. I don't know if it was your first time. And he didn't even want to talk about himself. He actually wanted to know more about what happened with the Greenway Rock Ridge
exactly.
Game. But he did, I know he was pretty disappointed at that penalty. I said, that's a no call. That's a no call. And they were huffing and puffing. And sounded a little nervous towards the end there, whether Grand Rapids was going to get the win. But of course, they pulled it off 4-3.
Yeah, they did. It was a battle, but I mean, there's some great things to say about playing a good schedule and playing a schedule where, you've got some ups and downs. And I don't mean any disrespect when I say this about some of the teams that you play, but when you're in a game, on a Saturday and you're up 11-0, you at times you can afford to maybe get lazy and you start to create some habits that maybe aren't as good. But when you play teams that you're closer with and some of those habits are instilling, and now's the time to get rid of those habits. If you do some of those things at the end of the game, and I know that as a staff in Rapids, we weren't happy, even though on Saturday the score was 11-0 against Ibn Chisholm. They didn't finish the way that they felt. It didn't feel good the way you finished, even though that score was the way it was. And the lesson is if you do that against a team like Duluth East, that's what happens. And the same thing kind of started to happen towards the end of the game. And it's there's some defensive breakdowns. There were some problems with special teams. And Coach Chaito just kind of said, we've got some things we have to fix here if we expect to be a contender. And that's what we're going to do.
Interesting. Okay. Anything else on that game?
No. I think we've got some other games that we'll chat about and give some more teams some time. I've been noted sometimes that when I get into talking about Grand Rapids, maybe I get a little too biased. So I'm do the best I can to peel away from that and talk about a game that you attended last night.
Yeah. So before we do so, I want to talk a little bit about outdoor rink hockey. So it's the holidays, or soon. It is the holidays. We're just like we're kind of right in the thick of hockey already. There are a lot of games over the last week. We're into the holidays. Outdoor rink hockey. This is a 16-year-old entrepreneur that came up with the outdoor rink, is what ODR stands for. The line. Going here. So t-shirts, hats, hoodie, stocking caps, hoodies, all that good stuff. You can find the ODR line exclusively at Iron Range Apparel in the Thunderbird Mall in Virginia. And like I said, it's a 16-year-old entrepreneur. So if you're looking for that perfect gift for somebody, that hockey person in your family, like I said, make the quick trip over to Thunderbird Mall and check out the ODR line at Iron Range Apparel. Yes, so last night was happy to get back to a rink. Last year I was at 2 live games. So nice to be back to the Snake Pit.
The Pit.
And, a decent crowd for a Tuesday night. Happy that I got to see the first puck drop of those green and black jerseys for Rock Ridge, and turned out to be a fantastic game. Shots ended 28-28. The entire game, they were within 1 or 2. It just was tick for tick for tick. A very hard hitting, lots of checks, very physical, clean checks, but open ice along the wall. A really good tempo. Like I said, very hard hitting. 2 penalties the entire game. Coincidentals into third period. So a little bit on the game itself. Greenway goes up actually 3-0, but there was a pipe in there for Rock Ridge. There was an incident. Looked like the player was on the far end. Looked like he was, the goalie was down. Player was in front of them. He had the whole net. And I think somehow, I don't know if the puck was rolling and he just went to tap it over the net.
Oh boy.
And you could see after it like this. So that enables Greenway to stretch to a 3-0 lead. I talked to Manninen's grandfather, Peter Carney, and he says, we're playing 4 lines. So you do see about middle of the second period, all of a sudden it's starting to turn into Rock Ridge's favor. It's 3-1. And it's 3-2, 6 minutes to go in the third. It's 3-3. Okay, now we got a game,
Yep.
And then, but from that point on, Greenway actually really turns it on. It puts a lot of pressure on Rock Ridge. And with about 2 minutes to go, I think it actually hit the top of a stick, a player's stick, shot from the point. I think it might have hit the top of a stick right in the upper corner. The goaltender didn't have a chance on that. And as far as the players, I mean, everybody looked pretty good. That Nick Troutwine logged a lot of minutes. Now a senior, actually partners with his brother, Sammy, the sophomore. But, probably an eyelash above everybody. But other than that, it was just good, hard-fought Iron Range, classic Iron Range mashup. It was, like I said, it was very entertaining. I'm really glad I went.
Well, that's awesome to hear that too. And, you think about any time, a lot of years of playing hockey on the Iron Range and coaching hockey on the Iron Range. And I don't care. Every single trip that you take to the Snake Pit, you better expect a battle. I can't think of too many times that I went to the Snake Pit and it was a blowout for a win for my team. It was always a battle going into the Snake Pit. Yeah, that's what you're going to see. It's gritty. It seems like the rink is smaller than everywhere else. Likely it's not, but it seems like it is because the stands are so close to you.
Right.
The fans are so close to you. You're
The
enclosed.
glass isn't tall.
You're in a dungeon and it's all green. That's why they call it the snake pit, because you're in a pit and it's green and everything is green. And I'm traumatized by the color green for the rest of my life because of the games that we played in the snake pit.
Yeah. So like I said, it was fantastic. Now, so I don't think anything of it, right? I mean, great matchup, two good teams. Then the calls,
The
text messages start.
Yeah.
WTF, we're Evelyn, Virginia. We can't beat Greenway. WTF. And it went on, folks. I mean, I talked to and had text messages from quite a few people. Ha ha emojis. WTF. Stop construction right now. I mean, just craziness, funny in a way. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that? I have to bring it up because it's just so funny. But on the other end, the people that are doing it, not really funny, a lot of emotion on there.
Sure, there is.
Really.
Well, the expectation is this. I mean, you've got, two programs that have been, like we said, staples of the Iron Range for decades and have been competitive. They've both been to state tournaments. They've both battled in one Iron Range conferences over the decades. And when you take two storied programs and put them together, the expectations are probably outrageous and maybe unrealistic for what people assume or expect for Rock Ridge. Also, people remember, you've got a new coaching staff that is trying to put together and build a new culture. I take a look at, I mean, this is not even close to pale in comparison, but you think back to the 1980 Olympic team. Herb Brooks put a team together that he knew was going to be successful. He didn't take the best players, he took the right players. Well, you can have all the talent you want in two programs, but if they don't mesh the right way right out of the gate, you're not going to have success. Not saying that that's not the case. I mean, maybe they are meshing right away, but right now, Coach Johnson and Coach Colby are trying to build a culture. And guess what? There's no way to learn better about what your culture is and what your identity is through the lessons of a couple of losses right away. You learn more from a loss than you do from a win. Yeah. I'm telling you right now. Those kids went to practice today. They looked in the mirror and they said, wow, something's got to give here. Yeah. We got to do something the right way. And I guarantee you that coaching staff is going to have them going in the right way. The community is going to put a ridiculous amount of pressure on these kids, which I think is unfair. But the kids are going to turn it around and you're going to see some good things happen from Rock Ridge. I feel bad for the kids because it isn't them. It's the older people from, Evelyn and Virginia saying, well, these two-story programs are coming together. We should dominate. Back up a second, pump the brakes, and remember what you just did. You're building something new, even though two programs have been separate in powerhouses forever. You're building something new. Have some patience.
Yeah. Well, and one of the reasons they combined the programs this year, because not every sport at Rock Ridge, for those of you that don't know, not every sport is combined right now. But one of the reasons they did it was because of numbers. They were, I think, was it Evelyn that was low on number? I can't remember which of the two.
Both.
I think it might, or both.
Both needed each other.
So they basically needed each other at this point anyway. So it's not, like they were, it's not like maybe tryouts last year where 25 kids, and now this year it was 50 kids. There was already, they probably had, I guess I don't know, but somewhat similar numbers because there was a number issue there anyway. But like I said, the kids competed, and a couple of, like I said, that one goal goes in, a pipe. I mean, Rock Ridge walks out of there with the victory. But like I said, Surdy had the Raiders, they were ready to play. That puck dropped, and that puck was moving. The kids were moving, like I said, hard hitting. Both teams, it was, like I said, it was a classic Iron Range matchup. And I was very happy I was able to get there and experience that. So any more on that game?
When you think about it, I know I said this on the air last night in my nine, and we talked about the coaching staffs. We talked about Coach Johnson and Coach Colby and Rock Ridge and their challenges of combining a new program and starting a new culture. We also talked about Andy Surdich and his staff over there as well, with Adam Johnson, Steve Arbor. These guys on that staff, it's not like it's their first rodeo. It's like expect Andy Surdich to be able to put teams together. The guy's a good coach. He's played a lot of years of professional college hockey. overseas. He spent time as an assistant coach with Grant Clafton at Greenway, and had stood on the bench at the XL Energy Center and taken a runner up to the state championship in 2019 with a loss to St. Cloud Cathedral. So the guy, it's not an accident that his teams play the way they do. He knows what he's doing. And you got to give credit where credit is due. Just because, the expectation of, that game should, Rock Ridge should take these guys, back up, wait a second, give some credit to some pride in Greenway. And I can't believe I'm saying this as a Grand Rapids guy, but it's true. It's true. Give them some credit.
They might change your swipe card at the school tomorrow.
No, they won't. They won't. They know, because I'm going to give it. I've always said, how many conversations did I have with Grant Clafton, who, by the way, is a Grand Rapids guy, but he spent years in Greenway. They always told me, I can't believe that, you're as supportive as you are. You've coached against us at Greenway, you Rapids guys. You know what? Respect is deserved, and it's going to be given from a guy like me that understands the game.
Yeah, totally. Okay, I agree. All right, Rink Sports Bar. Speaking of Rock Ridge, Evelyn, Minnesota, just down from the Hockey Hall of Fame. Some of you may remember it as the Rustic Rock, but it's now the Rink Sports Bar. Rink Sports Bar and grill.com is the webpage. You can order online, or 248-8582, 218-248-8582. Daily happy hour, nightly specials, Friday fish fry, and be listening. We'll get this to you as soon as it's available. They will be doing their holiday gift card special where you buy X number of dollars and you'll get bonused X amount of dollars, maybe an extra $5 card or something like that. I don't have the details yet, but be watching for that. It's a great gift idea from the Rink Sports Bar in Evelyn. All right, Hibbing Blue Jackets. Talked to one of the assistant coaches this morning. Go down to Cloquet, give them a scare in a 4-3, I guess, penalty-filled game. He said Hibbing had fine. Little brawl after the game, actually. Hibbing, one Hibbing player, at least, I don't know about the Cloquet side, but at least one Hibbing player suspended for their game, which would be, Thursday night up in International Falls. Of course, Shea Walters, Cloquet, Hibbing boy. Cloquet scored 1-0 Cloquet, then 2-1 Hibbing for a pretty lengthy amount of time. I was getting some updates while I was at the Snake Pit. Thoughts there?
Well, yeah, no surprise. I mean, there's definitely been some struggles. Shea Walters is doing an awesome job in Cloquet Esco Carleton. He really is. He's doing everything he can. He's got assistant coach Scotty Kishel, who's a good friend of mine, former Virginia guy. They're doing what they can. There was some issues in that program before Shea Walters came in. I mean, there were some problems where people were bailing and going to play juniors. There's been some struggles with certain, I'm not going to name families, I'm not going to name people, but there were some issues where, now people have left and gone, and there's some hard feelings, and Shea is going to have to work through some of those growing pains, and he's the right guy for the job. But there's been some growing pains in that Cloquet program. I'm not going to say they're not good, but I'm going to tell you that they're going to be good in the next couple of years. I coached the Bantam AA team here in Grand Rapids last year, and we got beat by them at the end of the year. So, I mean, those guys can play, and they've got some going. They probably have some pains that they're going to have to battle through this year with some hard work. Maybe a little different style of playing gritty and tough. And maybe that was part of it. Maybe that little brawl at the end of the game was part of them, antagonizing a tougher game. And you got it. Hey, they won the game. They finished the game with the W, but give credit to Coach Rewerts and company for going into whatever they call that rink over there. Is that the Northwoods Credit Union arena in Cloquet?
I've never been to the new one. The old barn.
The barn.
I still have not been to the new.
You got to go to a game.
You got to go to a game. I would like to, and I like to go to a Wilderness game even, but I just have not been in that barn.
It's a tough place to play. Again, you got one side that's got stands that kind of go up. The other side has a mezzanine and a press box, and you can stand all the way around. And usually they've got a pretty decent crowd. And I'm assuming now, because we're starting to kind of hopefully be on the back end of all of the pandemic issues here, rinks are starting to fill up. Likely it was a little fuller in that arena, and a tough place to play in Cloquet, and be ready. But give Hibbing some credit for going into that game after the shellacking that got put on them when they were here in Grand Rapids on Saturday. They didn't tuck their tail between their legs and stick their their lip out and whine. They didn't do that. They could have whined, said, "Oh, we took our medicine in Grand Rapids." Okay, they didn't pout. They didn't, because that's not Coach Rewerts' style. It's okay. We got work to do. Let's go back to the drawing board. And they did. They went back to the drawing board. They got things done. They came in. They did some work. they put together a pretty good fight against a Section 7 AA contender every year, and they put a scare at them. And congratulations for doing that. I know that you don't want to hear congratulations. You were competitive. I'm not trying to patronize you, but
a good rebound.
The kids have to be at least, don't be happy with a loss. Don't ever be happy with a loss, but at least be happy with some progress, and you're moving in the right direction. And good things are to come if you keep working. And Coach Reward, stick to it. You got good things down the pike here.
Yeah.
You really do.
Definitely. All right. Now, word from a new sponsor.
Yeah. So
depicted right here.
Yeah. So we picked up another new sponsor here. Things are clicking here with the tea with Ms McGill here. We've got some people that like to get their things out there, and a new one, Minnesota Hockey Camps in Breezy Point, Minnesota. In the show notes, you'll see mnhockeycamps.com. Some new ownership. This camp is a summer hockey camp, usually offered, anytime from close to the last couple of weeks of June through the beginning of August, where they've got camps every single week. And it's well known for being the hockey camp in the Northland, where the pros come in and actually work out for the summer. And they've got some pretty high-end names that, in the past have been there and worked out. TJ Oshie for one, Scott Hartnell for another, you name it. And current owner, Chris Stewart. So you've got guys that work out there that are pros. There's co-owners in that. Chris Stewart is one of the co-owners. My brother, Craig Larson, is one of the co-owners, and Tony Massieri is one of the co-owners. It was founded back in right after the Olympics of the 1980 Olympics. Herb Brooks and Chuck Garillo started this camp way back when. And Chuck Garillo kind of took the reins. Herbie was involved for a couple of years with him. Chuck took the reins forever and ever after that. He owned the camp all the way up until likely close to, I think my brother told me 2017, 18, when, Chuck kind of tossed the reins down to his son, Dino and Kerry, and they took the reins. And after COVID hit, it was tough to keep the camp open. And then came new ownership. We want to take over. Chris Stewart, Craig Larson, Tony Massieri said, hey, let's do this. And they brought the camp from Brainerd to Breezy Point. Okay. So if you're interested in the summertime to get a good hockey camp with skill development, dry land training, this is a place to sign up. And this is the camp, like I said, the camp where the pros go.
Awesome. Yeah, perfect. All right. Well, let's change gears here and let's look. We talked a little bit about the week that was. Let's go talk a little bit about games we can preview and what's coming up over the next week here. What's a game that stands out to you on the schedule?
Well, there's a couple here in the next couple of days. You mentioned one of them that can get interesting for those that are on the Iron Range. You always look at Iron Range matchups when you're from here. You look at Hibbing and International Falls. I think that's going to be a good game. I know you mentioned there might be a player out for Hibbing, but that's not going to matter. You drive up to International Falls. Hibbing, you're going to expect to not only be battling International Falls, but also what I like to call the ghosts in the rafters. All of the history of playing within Bronco Arena, you're going to be battling that too. And don't think International Falls that because Hibbing has struggled with a couple of losses that they're going to come over and roll over, because guess what? They're coming out with a little bit of an edge. They should have beat a team last night that was a AA team, and they're going to battle. Yeah. So it's going to be fun to hear about how that game goes up in International Falls. There's a couple other area games that I think are going to be good hockey games. I think Bemidji plays Duluth East. Bemidji's been getting better over the course of the last couple of years. Again, that's another team that I coached against last year when I was coaching the Bantam AA team. Bemidji had a nice Bantam AA team last year. They had beat us once or twice during the season, and it was they've got some talent coming up. So that should be an interesting game with East getting better. I know they're going to be looking for that first win for Coach Patosha. Like we said, they're 0-3, but they've gotten better with each game. They showed some fight at the end of the Rapids game. I think they're going to see anybody watching that Bemidji, you're going to see a team that is hungry for a W. So I think that's going to be a good game as well too here in the next couple of days. We do have here in Grand Rapids, we'll have a home game on Saturday, but we are on the road tomorrow night. Grand Rapids is going to be at Duluth Marshall, and on Saturday, Grand Rapids will be at home Saturday afternoon against Forest Lake with another Section 7 AA matchup.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, so a lot of hockey. So, the one I've kind of got my eyes on is Rock Ridge Hibbing. So we just talked a little bit about Rock Ridge. We talked a little bit about Hibbing. Kind of a tough week for Hibbing. Like I said, on the road last night, Cloquet. We're recording on Wednesday, so Tuesday night they're on the road. Thursday night they're on the road. Then come right back home on Friday night to, like I said, a Rock Ridge team that's going to get a little bit of rest here. Outside chance I might try and get into that one. I haven't seen a game at the Memorial Building in quite a few years, but that one, I mean, like I said, Hibbing's not in the IRC anymore. They're in the LSC, but let's call it the Iron Range Conference as was. Like last year, those were the top two teams. Well, Virginia, Hibbing, they're a tie, and I don't know, Hibbing beat Virginia, so it was a tiebreaker or whatever. So, could be a really good matchup.
It'll be a good matchup. I don't care what anybody says. It's, like you said, there's a little bit going on there right now with Rock Ridge and some frustrations of not winning that game last night. And don't think that they're not going to be coached up here in the next day or two. And with Coach Ben Johnson and Ryan Colby and Evan Friedlieb, they're going to be getting after those guys in practice. The kids are going to be getting after each other in practice to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And you better expect a complete battle in the Memorial Building. And I can't think of too many places in northern Minnesota that are as awesome to play at other than the Memorial Building. Of course, I'm going to say the IRA Civic Center is the most fun place because it's my home. But probably the next best one in northern Minnesota and continent could potentially be the Memorial Building.
Yeah.
Fun to play there, but expect it's going to be a wide open game too. That rink is big.
Yeah. Well, and just thinking here, Virginia and Hibbing, it was, for being the Blue Devils coach for some time, over the last, 20 years or so, they've really developed, quite the rivalry. So now it's time for those Rock Ridge kids to throw the Evelyn kids and the Mesabi East kids, hey, look, this is a big one for us. This is a rivalry game.
Join that rivalry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's time to get on board on that one. So that's kind of the one.
Well, it's interesting because there's, in my time when I was in Virginia, a lot of the kids would talk about how much of a rivalry it was again for Virginia to be playing Evelyn was a rivalry when I was there. But before I got there, at that point in time, there was a real big, if you talk to guys like Scotty Kishel and, Chris Weston and some of these guys that played or Wes Judnick, these guys thought the rivalry that trumped anybody would have been Virginia Hibbing.
Yeah. Oh, Niskanen. Shea Walters, they're on the same.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've heard those two talking. Yeah.
They kind of have done this before, back and forth. Okay, it used to be Evelyn, now it's Hibbing, but back to Evelyn. But those rivalries there, and it was a good rivalry. I mean, when Hibbing came to the Memorial Building, when I was coaching, you might see 1,000, 1,500 at the very most on a big night. With Hibbing is there, you might see 1,700 fans at that game. And I remember coaching a game at the Memorial Building. My first trip to the Memorial Building, when Mark DeCenzo was still coaching, I remember there was probably about 2,000, 2,500 in the building. And that's the first time that I had beat Hibbing as a coach in Virginia.
I'm sure I was there.
Yeah. And it was fun to do that, but it was a hostile environment.
Yeah. So it'd be a great, another great game coming up here to keep your eyes out for. All right. Just a few scores to run through here from the past week, Roseau 5 through Thief River Falls 2, Warroad over Mounds View, West Tonka 4-3, Chaplin over Denfeld 6-1, Bemidji winner over St. Cloud. Isn't that weird? Just say St. Cloud, no more Tech, no more Apollo, just St. Cloud. Bemidji 4-1, and then Fergus Falls with a 4-1 win over Northern Lakes. That pretty much wraps it up. Anything else?
No, I just look forward to some great hockey. Like I said, I'm going to be coaching some here tomorrow night, again on Saturday, and I look forward to checking updates of how some of these big games are going. We'll be here right back here next week for the next edition of the Tea with Ms McGill, and we should have some pretty good things to talk about.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah. So like I said, everyone, at the top of the show, Goat Sports Media for YouTube or Facebook. Once you're there, just subscribe. Then will automatically show up in your feed. You won't have to go look for us. Or like I said, if you're a podcast or Tea with Ms McGill Show, contact us, Goatsportsmediallc at gmail.com. We talked a bit about some other people that have merch. If you like some Tea with Ms McGill merch, that's what she looks like. Just email or message us. We'll find a way to get it to you for Christmas. $20 for a tee, 22 for a medium large XL, $20, $22 for a double X or higher. Thank our partners, Blue Line Brews, the Rink Sports Bar and Grill, Iron Range Apparel, Outdoor Rink Hockey, Brainerd Hockey Camps, Minnesota Loons Hockey. Like I said, find all the web pages down in the show notes.
We'll have to change that now. I mean, I don't want to correct you, but because that used to be in Brainerd. It's now
Oh, yeah.
it's in
I got a
Breezy Point.
Breezy Point.
We'll keep that in. We'll
But it's still
make the
called Brainerd
correction.
Hockey.
Nope, Minnesota
Nope,
hockey
Minnesota,
camps.
okay.
Minnesota hockey
I gotta
camps,
fill
MN
that
hockey
in here.
camps, and in Breezy Point.
Okay, in Breezy Point. All right,
Yep.
perfect. And then Minnesota Loons hockey. So for Reed Larson, I am Puka. Get out there and be your dream. You're tuned to the Tea with Ms. McGill show.